there can be only one. Released in 1986, Highlander tells the story of immortals living on Earth, scattered through society, playing a deadly game in order to win the great prize. The story switches from 1980s New York to medieval Scotland, as we follow the main protagonist, Connor MacLeod, an immortal living in New York City who has lived throughout the ages. It was all while taking part in a battle in the Highlands of Scotland in the 1500s that MacLeod learned that he simply cannot die. He then gets trained by fellow older immortal Ramirez, who tells him that the only way he can die is by having his head severed, and informs him that immortals are out to kill one another, so the last remaining immortal can claim the great prize. Now having lived lifetimes, MacLeod lives in New York City, damned by his long-suffering life of watching loved ones grow old and die. MacLeod is one of the last remaining immortals, and must face the terrifying villain, the Kurgan, an evil fellow immortal who will stop at nothing to destroy MacLeod so victory can be his. Above all, Highlander is also a love story, and a sad tragic tale at the same time. Although the idea of immortality may sound like a blessing, Highlander asks the honest question: who wants to live forever? In this classic movie, which stars legendary actors Christopher Lambert, Sean Connery, and Clancy Brown, and features a kick-ass soundtrack by legendary rock group Queen. So sit back and get ready to travel across the ages as we explore 10 amazing facts about Highlander, a movie that has gone on to become a treasured classic. Number 10. Fear the Kurgan. Clancy Brown makes a great and terrifying villain, and his abilities at being fiendishly evil and vulgar, along with being slightly comical, really shines throughout Highlander. You can just tell this is one slimy, creepy, dangerous man, whom our main hero MacLeod must stop. In fact, Brown played the part so well that according to director Russell McCaughey, he actually even creeped out many of the cast and crew working on the movie. He really got into his character and really unleashed his inner asshole, with many of his co-workers refusing to even go near him. I mean, can you blame them? Just look at the guy! That is a whole heap of creepy right there. Number 9. The director hated the movie's poster. In 2005, a special edition of Highlander 2 was released on DVD, which featured a 2-hour documentary about the movie. Which itself is weird. I mean, why is it Highlander 2 that gets a 2-hour documentary made about it? Whereas the original, which is a better movie, let alone a coherent one, doesn't. That just doesn't make sense to me. And in the documentary, Highlander 1 and 2 director, Russell McCaughey, talks about how when the original Highlander came out, it didn't initially do well in the States. Well, he put it down to the movie's marketing and pointed out the movie's theatrical poster, which features a dark, grainy, black and white photo of Christopher Lambert's head. He spoke of his disappointment in the poster and felt that it made Lambert look like some creepy serial pervert. And I have to agree, it doesn't capture the fantasy or heart of the movie, and looks more Eraserhead than Highlander. McCaughey further explains that the movie did far better in its European release, and pointed out that in Europe it had much better promotional materials that were closer to the spirit of the movie. Number 8. Connerys' quick filming. In Highlander, the Ramirez character is definitely the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the movie. He mentors Connor MacLeod and teaches him the ways of the Force, so to speak. And who else better to play the aging mentor than the legendary and original James Bond himself, Sean Connery. All of Connery's scenes were filmed in Scotland, and apparently he was only on set for 1 week of filming. Yep, that's right, all his scenes were filmed within a week. But I think what really helps in this performance is that Sean Connery and Lambert got along really well on the set, and I think their bromance chemistry really shows on film. However, it wasn't all pleasant having the legendary Scott on the set, as Connery insisted he didn't need any practice with his sword battle scenes and refused to be trained, and as a result suffered some injuries on set. But regardless, Connery gives the role great heart and wisdom. And this whole role of Connery being a mentor to a younger hero was then redone several years later in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. In fact, you know what? I felt like after Highlander, there were lots of movies where Connery acted as an older mentor to younger lead protagonists. And that image of Connery started with Highlander. Number 7. Highlander Rhapsody. As mentioned, Queen's rocking soundtrack gives this movie an extra dose of yeah, making the soundtrack just as loved and as treasured as the movie itself. This was the second time the British rock group Queen provided music for a movie, the first being 1980's Flash Gordon. However, had Queen not taken on the mantle of providing the music for Highlander, other choices of musical acts to contribute to the sound of the movie include Sting, Duran Duran, and David Bowie. But thankfully, Queen stepped up to the challenge. They originally only wanted to produce just one song for the movie, but after seeing early footage of the film, they fell in love with it and provided a handful of songs, including, if you pardon the pun, immortal classics such as It's a Kind of Magic, Princes of the Universe, and the haunting yet tragic Who Wants to Live Forever, which is probably the most somber Queen song ever, but yet so effective with the emotions of the movie and powerful. Queen recorded a music video for Princes of the Universe, in which Christopher Lambert turns up to do battle with Freddy. Everyone seems to agree that the songs Queen provided for Highlander are classics. I mean, yeah, everyone loves Who Wants to Live Forever. Everyone loves It's a Kind of Magic. Everyone loves Princes of the Universe. But no one ever talks about Queen's rendition of New York, New York that they provided for the film. And yes, that actually did happen. Number 6. A changing of sports. So after a brief haunting narration from Sean Connery and a rocking title sequence with Queen's Princes of the Universe blasting, the movie then starts where we meet Connor McLeod at a wrestling match, of all places. Which I admit is a strange way to start the movie, where we see McLeod just isn't getting into the wrestling mood, but is instead having flashbacks of his time in medieval Scotland. Well, originally the movie was meant to start at a hockey game. However, the NHL refused to let the filming crew film a hockey game, as the script explains that it's while observing the violence of the sport which triggers McLeod's memories of his battle days in Scotland as a Highlander. And the NHL didn't want hockey to be depicted as a bloody, violent sport. Actually, having said that, now it makes perfect sense to start the movie off with a wrestling match. Number 5. Lost scenes. As with most movies, Highlander has its fair share of deleted scenes. But what makes Highlander's deleted scenes that bit more tragic is that they are now gone from the sands of time, never to be viewed by anyone. As due to a warehouse fire, prints of the deleted scenes were destroyed. Giving the movie's themes of the tragedy of being immortal and watching things you love die, it's kind of ironic. The most famous of the deleted scenes is a scene where the main villain, the Kurgan, battles another immortal, completely removed from the final film, called Young Dol Kim. And what makes this fight scene so unique is that Kim fights the Kurgan with 2 swords, as opposed to the traditional one-sword fights. And it looks like the action takes place in a corporate office, which is a unique setting for the film, as most of the sceneries have a dark, gritty grunge atmosphere. There was also a deleted flashback sequence where McLeod meets Thomas Jefferson. But sadly, once again, due to a warehouse fire, those scenes will never be seen. So we can only imagine what they would have been like. Number 4. Optional choices for the casting of McLeod. Had Christopher Lambert not taken on the role of the immortal Scott living in 1980s New York City, there were other actors that were considered for the main lead, including Mel Gibson, who would eventually go on to play William Wallace in Braveheart, along with Kevin Costner, Patrick Swayze, Sting, and Michael Douglas. However, things get really weird, as Hulk Hogan even claims that he too was offered the role to play McLeod, but turned it down to focus on his wrestling career. Keep in mind that at this stage, the only time we had seen Hogan in the movies was as Thunderlips in Rocky 3, which was basically played for laughs. Yeah, I just can't see Hulk Hogan as Connor McLeod. That's crazy. I can only imagine that maybe they offered him the role of one of the wrestlers at the start of the film, and Hogan somewhere along the way got confused and thought they were offering him the main lead. Or maybe they generally did want him as Connor McLeod. Who knows? Number 3. There should be only one. Highlander was meant to be a one-picture movie. There was never the intention to make a franchise out of the film. I mean, hell, the movie even ends with everything wrapped up, with Lambert now being the last immortal and winning the prize. There is literally nothing that could have been done after that. But with great box office potential comes great responsibility to make terrible sequels. And in 1991, Highlander 2: The Quickening came out. Often regarded as one of the worst sequels of all time, the unnecessary sequel explains that Connor McLeod, along with the other immortals, are aliens from a planet called Zeist. And I'm not kidding either. And there is another subplot about a shield that was created around the planet to stop it from getting destroyed by the sun. And Connor rides a hoverboard, and there was these weird hedgehog men, and a weird opera number. Yeah, this movie is bizarre to say the least, and is so awful, there have now been 3 versions made to try and salvage it into at least being a watchable movie. Then there was Highlander 3, otherwise known as Highlander 3: The Sorcerer, or Highlander 3: The Final Dimension, or Highlander 3: The Final Conflict. Oh my god, can you just pick a title already? Seriously, was naming this movie really that difficult? Highlander 3 ignores the second entry altogether and tries to capture the feel of the first movie, but the magic just isn't there. Then there was Highlander Endgame, and then after that is when the direct-to-video sequels started to rear their heads, with Highlander: The Source and an animated movie, Highlander: The Search for Vengeance. There was also a Highlander TV series and a spin-off TV series called Highlander the Raven, along with a Highlander animated series. There can be only one. Yeah, my ass, there can be only one. Number 2, the truth behind the introduction narration. Highlander starts off with some narrated monologue by Sean Connery, basically explaining the scenario of the Immortals. And what makes this piece of narration so effective is that it has an echo about it, almost making Connery's voice itself sound a bit more powerful, adding to the theatrical effect.
No one has ever known we were among you. Until now.
However, there was no sound effect given to Sean Connery's voice to give it that spooky echo. But actually it sounds that way because Connery recorded it in a toilet. I'm guessing Connery was told to quickly provide a voiceover for the movie and got on the business while doing, his business. And the recording was sent to the producers, who thought the recording sounded great, so hence it was used. So the next time you watch Highlander and you hear the all-powerful haunting narration at the start of the movie, just remember that was probably recorded while Connery was sitting on the John. Number 1, Lamberts Way of Talking. Christopher Lambert is a French actor, and the irony of him being cast in the movie is that you had a Frenchman playing a Scotsman, and a Scotsman playing an Egyptian. In order to get himself ready for the role, Lambert had very little time to perfect his English. And a lot of people claim that because English isn't his first language, is why his accent sounded weird in the movie.
You talk funny, Nash. Where are you from?
Lots of different places.
However, Connor McLeod's accent was meant to sound weird and strange. It was intended to sound like an accent that has been carried throughout centuries, that has lived with many places and cultures. So, a sort of amalgamation of different accents. I actually thought he did a good job. And yes, his accent in Highlander does have a unique timelessness about it. There is plenty to celebrate in regards to the original Highlander movie. It has emotion and heart, making the kick-ass action and special effects an added bonus to the piece, along with wonderful fantasy storytelling. And there is just something really timeless about it. I highly recommend the movie if you haven't seen it. Anyway, I'm Minty, and there can be only one. Oh, come on, you all knew I was going to end this video saying that. You knew it. See ya.